Out front tonight, the many lives lost too soon to coronavirus. Joe Lewinger was a husband and father of three. He lived on Long Island, just outside of New York City. Worked for 20 years at a Catholic high school where he was the assistant principal and coached the basketball team. He was incredibly beloved by his students, one saying he was like a second father. Lewinger passed away on Saturday at the age of 42. And his wife, Mara, joins us now. And Mara, look, you and I were just speaking briefly before this began, and not only am I so sorry, but of course it is impossible to truly imagine the depth of your loss, the suddenness of it, the unexpectedness of it. But I know that you are on tonight to speak to people at this moment, and that you have something important you want to tell them. Tell us.
I do. My husband gave 110% to everything he did. When I met him in college, he was known as Mr. St. Joe's because he embodied every spirit of that college. And then getting a job at the Mary Louis Academy right out of college, he just became that guy who everybody loved, everybody was inspired by. Every lesson he had his students engaged and wanting to learn more. I received a letter from his chairperson, and she said she never learned more about economics than in his Santa's workshop elves lesson. And that touched me because I never got to see him as a teacher in front of a classroom, but I can imagine because I see him with our own children and I see him with the members of our community and with our friends. And he always has a listening ear, no matter what you're talking about. Joe was always listening. Always felt like you were the most important person in the room.
And Mar, you both are just so young. I mean, he was only 42, no pre-existing conditions that you know of. I mean, when he became sick, I'm sure that this could have happened, never crossed your mind, that this could have ended this way.
Not at all. I mean, he started out mild symptoms, low-grade fever. And then a couple days later, he stayed up quarantined. We quarantined right away, not thinking. He actually was denied the test originally because he wasn't symptomatic enough. And then when he did get the test, those results took longer. And we were told if he gets worse to go to the emergency room. And that's what happened on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th. His fever continued to spike. And he started to have labored breathing. And he said, I have to go. Something's not right. So they admitted him. And he had already been on oral antibiotics for what they knew was a pneumonia. And it had gotten worse. And he was immediately put on oxygen and admitted to the floor. And then they began the protocol that they're using, anti-malaria drugs and azithromycin. And he had that for 5 days. And then he had a trial drug. The name escapes me right now. And that drug is used in rheumatoid arthritis treatment. And it was part of a trial. So there is a chance that he didn't get it. I don't know the answer to that yet. But he did become afebrile 24 hours after receiving that infusion, whether it be the drug or a placebo. I'm not sure. So everybody kind of got their hopes up with being without a fever, 24 hours, 48 hours. But I saw his breathing. We spent pretty much 24/7 on FaceTime, just trying to meditate, trying to calm him, trying to not let him feel alone. The country's getting used to remote learning. And we had to get used to virtual caregiving and virtual marriage and just being there for each other. And when I had said to him, do you want me to say something for the prayers? Do you want me to put it out there? Not make it public, but, with our own friends and family who didn't know yet. And he was debating it. And then when I finally did post and I made it public, I said to him, before I did it, I said, babe, it's time. I said, it's time to make this known. Besides the prayers, I said, people are not listening. People are not taking this serious enough. There are still kids riding their bikes. There are still that don't live together. You want to go for a walk with your family. You want to ride your bike. You want to take a ride in the car with your family. I get it. We're stir crazy too. But only be with the people that live in your house. Only go to the store if you must. And people, okay.
I just wanted to ask you, Mara, you talk about FaceTime. Were you able to be with him when he died, or
I was?
No?
I was.
You were?
I was. Yes.
Thank God.
I was. Yes. The doctors kept me very much in the loop. She called and told me that I had called in the morning. He was put on the ventilator and sedated, and then he was transferred to the ICU. And then I called and spoke with that nurse, and he was very reassuring. And I asked him to play music, and I told him what he liked to listen to. And then he said he would. He's like, he's very heavily sedated, but I definitely will. And the next morning I waited a little bit. I know everybody's busy taking care of everybody. So around 11 I called, and then I got I finally talked to a nurse, and she said that the team would be calling later in the afternoon. They're going to call all the ICU families. But he was fine. He was stable, and he was sedated. Still no change. So I said, okay. And I went about taking care of my children. And then around 2 o'clock, the doctor called. And I expected to hear the same thing. And I had a list of questions because everybody asked about this, asked about that. And so I did. And she said that she's a little bit concerned because he's on 3 blood pressure medications. And his breathing is just not good, that he's not expelling the carbon from his lungs. And then I said, well, I need to speak with him. And she said, okay, I don't think there's a phone. I said, just go get his. I'll give you the code. Just go get his. And she FaceTimed. And I saw him, and I begged him not to leave us. And I told him that we all needed him. And then she said, I don't want to cut your time short, but we have to take care of him. And I said, okay, please call me back. And she did. And she called me back, and she told me her next idea that was just kind of out of the back pocket. You know, they didn't know if it was going to work, but just like a last ditch. And I said, okay. And then I was just busying myself. I was actually doing dishes, just busying myself, listening to our wedding song on loop, staring out into the backyard. And it dawned on me that, oh my gosh, he would need last rites. We're Catholic. He would need last rites. If this is it, he's going to need last rites. And I called back, and she said, absolutely. We'll have that waiting. And I said, okay, and then call me back. So she again called me back, and her words to me were, we have thrown the kitchen sink at him, and I'm afraid he doesn't have any more time. And so I said, then I need to be on FaceTime again. I need to be with him. I said, hurry in the room and get him on FaceTime. And so she did. She did. And I thanked him. I thanked him for being the most amazing husband, and for making me feel cherished and loved every single day. Every single day, my husband wrote me beautiful love letters in my lunchbox. Not just have a great day, but just beautiful letters about what I meant to him and our plans for the weekend, maybe if it was Friday, or just about, maybe the next morning. We always had a beautiful morning. He always took care of me. He always got me my coffee and just wanted to help me get out of the house and help me in every way. And so I thanked him. And then I prayed. And then the doctor took the phone. And he said, I'm sorry, but there's no more pulse. And then I played our wedding song for him. And then that was it. So I was with him, and he passed. Mm. But I don't want anybody else to experience this. This morning I woke up to a notification on my phone that 43 in Nassau County, 43 people alone overnight died because people are just not being careful. People are just being so invincible feeling. They think it can't happen to them, and maybe they won't. It won't happen to them, but maybe they're carrying it and they don't know it. And from my cousin today, I heard that their 11-year-old daughter had to yell at her 11-year-old friends for inviting her to the park. Why are you inviting me? You're supposed to be home. Why are you together? Parents, you have to be mean. You have to not care if your kids hate you right now. they're going to hate you no matter what, because this whole thing, everything about it is awful. But you cannot be with people that are not in your house. As sad and lonely and everything that is, you must stay with only the people in your house.
You know, Mar, I want to just, so our viewers know, I mean, I think your love for him. Sorry, you made me cry, actually. It's a beautiful thing. But I also wanted everyone to know about the love that your community had for your husband. I know that at the procession yesterday, because you couldn't have a funeral, there were at least 100 cars, many of them with these beautiful signs of support.
131 plus the fire trucks.
And you know, you and your 3 children have this indescribable loss, but he had such a huge impact on his students. You know, when we talk about 20 years at that school and being a coach, I know they called him J. Lou, I guess is what we were told. And, you know, a few of them reached out to us today just to talk about how much he meant to them. And I just wanted to play what 3 of them said, Amanda, Moral, and Madden, for you, Mara.
Thank you.
I knew that if I went to that school under his watch, I'd be okay. We'll always love the Lewingers. They're always with us.
Joe had a special way of connecting with folks. He always set this, bar high and continuously wanted you to excel.
I am certain that his presence of compassion and kindness and sense of humor and goodness will be with every single student he impacted forever.
He meant so much to them. I mean, how much did his calling, his job, his students mean to him, Maura?
Oh, gosh. It's indescribable. It's indescribable. The amount of time and effort that he put into everything he did. He served, besides teacher, coach, athletic director, and assistant principal, he was on our board of education for our own children's school district. He just gave every part of him to every part of his life, his family, his friends. That was Joe. I mean, everybody meant the world to him. He never complained about anything. He just did. It was always a race against the clock. He would come home from one meeting, I'd shove dinner down his face, and he'd be off to the next one. And that's just what we did. It was always like, oh, on the weekend, okay, so let's talk about the week coming up. Like, all right, what day are you going to be home with me? Like, that's what, because he was just such a giver. He was such a giver in every respect of the word. He just loved to make people happy. He loved to make people feel loved. And I think everybody around him did. And something that one of the students, I don't remember who it was or where I saw it, but it rang, it just resonated so much with me that she said that she was grieving for the future students of Mary Lewis, that they would not experience J. Lou, and they wouldn't know what it is to walk down the hall and get a high five from him. And that just spoke volumes to me.
Maura, you shared a picture that your son posted on Instagram of himself and his father there in the water. And the caption read, he was my Marvel superhero, my Jedi master, my Costco shopping buddy. Even though it breaks my heart that he's gone, I'll always know that he has his hand on my shoulder looking down on me. You also have 2 daughters.
I do.
And I know one very young for your children. How are you handling them, and how are they handling this indescribable and incomprehensible loss?
It's hard to put to words. They're relying on their friends a lot. FaceTime is definitely a blessing. Madison especially, she's my social butterfly. She is involved in so many circles and loved by so many, and as is Jack. But Maddie she's relied on FaceTime and talking with her camp counselor friends and her school friends and her neighborhood friends, and she's just always on talking with somebody. And Jack also through text and FaceTime, and he found a lot of solace in the comments that people wrote, and just reaching out and just made him feel proud. Especially my little one, she's mad. She's really mad. She's her vocabulary and her expressive language skills are higher than the bar. And she, but she is acting out. She's definitely, and that's not her. She's not her at all. And she's just angry. She's just angry. She told me just before, actually, while we were 2 minutes before I began talking with you, I was cutting and gluing paper. We were making people. And she said, I have nowhere. I'm mad. I'm mad at God. I'm really angry. I said, that's okay. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be angry at whoever and whatever you want. We're all angry. We're all upset. But it really, it hasn't 100% set in, of course, because we can't go through the typical pomp and circumstance that we're used to. My 6-year-old also said, wait, Daddy can't have a wake? We haven't had a wake in so long. And she's saying that because we had my grandmother's wake a year and a half ago. At 92, you celebrate that. You're laughing with your cousins at the wake. You're telling stories. You're so excited to see people. Not for that reason, but you're happy to see them. And so she said that, that's what Daddy should have. And I 100% agree. There's nobody who deserves a party more than my husband. Nobody who deserves a celebration of life more than my husband. So hopefully when this madness is over, that's what he'll have. And for now, we can have a quiet, private family burial, just immediate family, and at least say goodbye in some respect to make it a little bit more real, because right now, not seeing anybody, it sometimes just feels like he's at work. I'm doing the dishes, I'm asking my son to take out the garbage, and it just feels like he's working late. Yeah. And then, of course, I realize he's not.
Mar, you are in our thoughts, and I know the thoughts of everyone watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hear that precious little voice behind you. But I do hope that for everyone watching, not only can they realize and celebrate the life of someone who is clearly a beautiful person who was gone too soon, but also to take this, as you say, so seriously and understand the lives and the families that are on the line. Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for listening to our story.